I appreciate everyone giving me the chance to give you the message. For those who don't know, obviously I'm not Reverend Bonnie Montgomery. She's out right now, so just decided to step in and help out and fill in until we can figure out what's going on with that. So my message is called Overcoming Adversity from the Belly of a Great Fish. So obviously it has to do with Jonah. So trying to tie everything together today. So adversity, trials, tribulations, and challenges, we all face these throughout our lives. But why? Why would God put these obstacles in our lives, especially if in our minds we are doing His will and following His way? I believe by facing our adversities, it strengthens our faith most of the time. Of course, we can always get challenged to where we're questioning our faith as well. But I also believe that God challenges us when we aren't really listening to Him in order to get our attention and to remind us to allow Him to be in control. Personally, something I have a lot of challenge with. I want to be in control. I don't want to leave God in control of things. I know better than God, right? Isn't that how a lot of us think? We all have trials in our lives. Those challenges in lives that distract us and seem to want to keep us from doing the things we want to do. It can be quite overwhelming at times. If I look at my own life, there have been financial difficulties, family issues, health issues, marital stresses, the list could go on and on. It can make you just want to throw in the towel. I just want God to fix it, right? Problem, fix it. What do I need to do? You just need to fix it, God. But through these obstacles, I have come to learn that God uses these trials to help me and us grow closer to Him. We have to learn through the struggles of life. Here's a good example of overcoming adversity. Let's think about how Jonah overcame that. So if you have your Bibles, you might want to get them out just to follow along to make sure I'm not reading something wrong. It's a little lengthy, but I'm going to read from Jonah chapter 1, verses 1 through 17, then chapter 2, verse 1, and then verses 9 through 10. The word of the Lord came to Jonah, son of Amittai. Go to the great city of Nineveh and preach against it, because its wickedness has come up before me. But Jonah ran away from the Lord and headed for Tarshish. He went down to Joppa, where he found a ship bound for that port. After paying the fare, he went aboard and sailed for Tarshish to flee from the Lord. Then the Lord sent a great wind on the sea, and such a violent storm arose that the ship threatened to break up. All the sailors were afraid, and each cried out to his own God. And they threw the cargo into the sea to lighten the ship. But Jonah had gone below deck, where he lay down and fell into a deep sleep. The captain went to him and said, "How can you sleep? Get up and call on your God. Maybe He will take notice of us, and we will not perish." Then the sailors said to each other, "Come, let us cast lots to find out who is responsible for this calamity." They cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. So they asked him, "Tell us who is responsible for making all this trouble for us. What do you do? Where do you come from? What is your country? From what people are you?" He answered, "I am a Hebrew, and I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the land." This terrified them, and they asked, "What have you done?" They know he was running away from the Lord because he had already told them so. The sea was getting rougher and rougher, so they asked him, "What should we do to you to make the sea calm down for us?" "Pick me up and throw me into the sea," he replied, "and it will become calm. I know that it is my fault and that this great storm has come upon you." Instead, the men did their best to row back to land. But they could not, for the sea grew even wilder than before. Then they cried to the Lord, "O Lord, please do not let us die for taking this man's life. Do not hold us accountable for killing an innocent man for you, O Lord. Have done as you pleased." Now, I just want to stop there for a second, because if you remember earlier, everyone was praying to their God. And if you're following along in the Bible, that's little g. So they're following their own local gods. Here, in just this small little bit of action, they're praying to the Lord and asking Him, to forgive them. Then they took Jonah and threw him overboard, and the raging sea grew calm. At this, the men greatly feared the Lord, and they offered a sacrifice to the Lord and made vows to Him. But the Lord provided a great fish to swallow Jonah, and Jonah was inside the fish 3 days and 3 nights. From inside the fish, Jonah prayed to the Lord his God. But I, with a song of thanksgiving, will sacrifice to you. What I have vowed, I will make good. Salvation comes from the Lord. And the Lord commanded the fish, and it vomited Jonah onto the dry land. So that's quite a mess that Jonah got himself into. Mainly because he was denying God's will and not obeying God. But really because he didn't trust in the Lord. You see, a lot of people think that Jonah was afraid to go to Nineveh, but it doesn't really say that anywhere in the Bible. So if Jonah wasn't afraid, why did he run away? Well, during Jonah's day, the local superpower was the Assyrian Empire. They were cruel and pagan, and Nineveh was the capital of Assyria. So Nineveh was the big enemy, the greatest menace that Israel faced. So an easy comparison for most of us would be during the Cold War, when President Reagan described the Soviet Union as that evil empire. Well, that would be Assyria in the time of Jonah. Can you imagine what that would be like? It would be as if during the Second World War, God had sent a Jew to prophesy to Hitler's Nazis. God sent Jonah to prophesy to a powerful enemy, an enemy that Jonah would have seen as evil and threatening. How would you react if God came to you today and said, I need you to go to Iraq and prophesy to the members of ISIS or the Islamic State or whatever they're calling themselves right now? They're a very radical Islamic group taking over a lot in the Middle East, and they're severely persecuting Christians, if you don't know right now. I don't think many of us would say, oh, your will be done, Lord. I'm jumping on the plane right now and I'm going. Right? Would it be because of our fear, or would it be because we don't trust enough in the Lord? So I don't really believe that Jonah was afraid to go, and the Bible doesn't say he was afraid. Remember that. I just believe he didn't trust enough in the Lord. Plus, he knew that by prophesying to the Ninevites, remember, they were evil and cruel and pagan, and the reason God wanted him to go there was because he was trying to save them from having to destroy them. So if he went and he prophesied to the Ninevites, and they believed, then God wouldn't pass judgment on them, and he would be known as the man who single-handedly rescued the enemy from God's judgment. Because think about it, most of the Israelites would have rather had God pass his judgment on the Ninevites and cleared out that bad Assyrian Empire. That was their main enemy at the time. So Jonah takes off and tries to escape to Tarshish. While at sea, a great storm ensues. The Bible tells us that the crew all began praying to their gods. But once they cast lots and Jonah assumes responsibility and tells them that it is because of his God, they become fearful and are praying to the Lord. So even in this adversity, God is turning people to him. So he turned these pagan worshipers to him. Now, granted, it seemed like it was through the use of fear, but that's how God seemed to work a lot throughout the Old Testament, was through fear. But it helped people realize who really is God. Jonah accepts his fate and was cast overboard. But the Lord rescues him by having a great fish swallow him up. Wow, what a rescue. If you fell overboard, wouldn't you like that? Wouldn't you like to just be swallowed up by a big fish? No, I don't think so. Of course, this could be the point in the story where people could come along and say, there's no way this could happen. This whole story must be some kind of metaphor or an allegory. First of all, a fish big enough to swallow a man? And even if so, how did he survive for 3 days? Logically speaking, it makes no sense. But there are 3 aquatic animals that are alive today, the sperm whale, the whale shark, and the white shark, that have all been found to have animals in their stomachs the size of a human. Now, obviously, they've not found a human in their stomach, but they found animals the size of a human. Also, this is God, and through God, all things are possible, right? So I believe he did send a large fish to swallow Jonah, and that he kept him alive in the stomach of the fish for 3 days. But you know who else believed this to be true? Anybody know who else believed it to be true? It was Jesus. When answering the Pharisees in Matthew 12, verses 39 to 41, he answered, "A wicked and adulterous generation asks for a miraculous sign, but none will be given it except the sign of the prophet Jonah. For as Jonah was 3 days and nights in the belly of a huge fish, so the Son of Man will be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. The men of Nineveh will stand up at judgment with this generation and condemn it, for they repented at the preaching of Jonah, and now one greater than Jonah is here." So, if Jesus knew the story to be factual, why could any of us doubt that it truly did happen? Through all of this, God could have rejected Jonah and decided it wasn't worth doing anything about those nasty people in Nineveh. But God did not give up. He did not give up on his purpose to show mercy to the people of Nineveh, even though they didn't deserve it. Neither did he give up on his disobedient prophet. This encourages me. It says that God is committed to us. He does not easily give up on us. In fact, once we are his children, he will never give up until he has brought us safely home. So yes, we are going to face adversity and challenges through life. And instead of feeling sorry for ourselves and trying to find the easy solutions, the easy way out, let's pull ourselves together, thank the Lord for the adversities that he's given us to strengthen us, and let's not give up on him because he'll never give up on us. I believe that whatever God has called us to do, he will not set us up to fail. He will be with us every step of that new journey. Will you bow your heads in prayer with me, please? Lord, thank you for the adversities and the challenges that you give us. Continue to strengthen our faith in you and show us your ways. I know that you are always there beside me, and many times you are carrying me through my obstacles. With you, all things are possible. Help to remind me that you are in control. Continue to bless all of us as we walk more on the path with you. Amen.